First of all, writing is the third subtest in one go, like listening, reading, and after that we have writing subtest. So in the first 5 minutes, you're not allowed to write anything anywhere. This is your just the reading time. After that, we have 40 minutes time to complete the writing task. That will be one profession specific task. If you're a doctor, you'll get the medicine rule. It could be referral, it could be discharge, it could be transfer, and so on. So these are different types of letter. As you can see, a referral letter, a discharge letter, a transfer letter. These are three major types of letter we can expect over here. Update is also the type of discharge letter. Request is a kind of maybe a referral or a discharge letter as well, right? Education letter and information letter is quite rare in the medicine. Education letter and we can say it's quite rare in the progress. So we have to see that we have the education letter and information letter. It's quite rare, right? Anyhow, this is the main thing that you have to understand. The purpose of writing, the selection of the case notes, that is content, organization and layout, conciseness and clarity, genre and style and language. So these six criteria are important. First of all, what the purpose of writing, what is the selection of the case notes, right? And what is organization layout. We'll try to discuss all the criteria because your writing will be marked on these criteria, fine. So out of 500, this is total score is 500. You need to score 350 out of 500. So as per the criteria, like minus purpose, everything is being marked from 0 to 7. And in order to qualify your OET writing, you must score 5 out of 7, right? 5 out of 7. Okay. So if you can see there, we have the purpose that is being graded from 0 to 3. But in order to qualify, you should take 2 out of 3. But in comparison to the marking criteria, with reference to, you can say these two, the purpose, the selection, organization, and conciseness, these four are quite important in marking. So we'll try to understand these four criteria one by one. And if you don't understand anything, I will ask you after each criteria, please feel free to confirm if you don't understand, but raise your hand, wait for your turn as you're recording. Anyhow, so first of all, to whom we are writing this letter? This is the first thing we should have. To whom are we writing this letter? Who is the recipient? So irrespective of the fact, if you are writing this letter to the, let's say, to the cardiologist, if you're writing this letter to the home care nurse, maybe, if you're writing this letter to the palliative care nurse, for example, if you're writing this letter to the endocrinologist, according to the person and according to the issue, this will define your reason of writing. It's quite simple. Whenever you receive the case notes, just go to the bottommost part of the writing task. In a few minutes, we'll discuss the example as well. Just keep in mind the purpose of writing, and accordingly, we'll discuss with you, right? So first of all, the recipient to whom we are writing this letter and for what we're writing this letter, right? And accordingly, we have to decide the main concern that we have is the second criteria is your selection of the case notes. So what is the selection of the case notes? It's the relevant selection, relevant with reference to the recipient and relevant with reference to the issue. It's always important to keep one thing in mind, that you should not write it down irrelevant thing, right? We have to omit the irrelevant details. Semi-relevant case notes are optional. Semi-relevant might be that thing could be related to a person, to the recipient, but not related to the issue. That is called as a semi-relevant information, right? Then we can see over here, we have the, we can say irrelevant information. We should not write it down no matter what. One thing that I would like to highlight in this class today, that no matter what, do not write it down semi-relevant information before relevant. It is important for you to keep in your mind, because this could be the most, I would say, dangerous thing when writing a letter. If you write just because to follow the structure or the format of writing, write semi-relevant before relevant, it might have a very negative consequence on your marking criteria. So any minor mistake that we believe is a minor, but it's do have a significant effect. If you miss something significant, a single point in the case notes, it could affect you badly, right? Even it's a minor thing, it could affect you badly. So always be cautious when you select the relevant case notes, right? That is followed by the organization and layout. Now, organization and layout is quite challenging when it's come to sequence the information, because we won't have a standard sequence. As per the information of the case notes, we may sequence it, right? So for the sake of example, if I would like to discuss thing with you, when it's come to organize the information for the discussion purpose, we will say that these are, let's say, inverted triangle or cone. This is a concept. I'll explain it to you. I'm sorry for my bad rhyme. And then we have the straight cone. What I mean by that, you can see that letter can be, we can put the letters in these two cones, most of the letters. How? If we follow the concept of inverted cone mean that in the first few visits, you may found significant information, right? In this part, there is a significant information of the case notes. To make it more clear, these are, let's say, first visit. This is first visit, now second visit, third visit, and fourth visit. So as you can see, the fourth visit, we might not have significant information. It's not about the size of the information. Maybe they have given the detail. It's about the significance. It's about the significance, not the size. Remember that. So if we have a very significant information, the first visit, we have to follow this inverted cone. Because as a matter of fact, we believe that if we have the case notes in this way, if these are 1, 2, 3 visit, and this is today visit or the recent history, a general understanding is that we have less important information in these paragraphs, in these visits. We have to summarize down this thing down. So this is your general understanding. But as you can see from the concept I've discussed with you, if you have something significant information, maybe multiple symptom in the first visit, we can write in the inverted cone formula, right? We have to summarize this thing down, expand the first few visits, and as we move on, we may summarize the information. Similarly, a conventional letter of referral or discharge can be written with the straight cone. Let's say if we have one symptom, patient presented with that, then the progression of disease is there. So the disease has developed now and you have investigation, everything. So in the first few visits, we will summarize, and the last visit we will expand. So this is the organization somehow, and same is the case with the discharge letter. You can see maybe this part is the discharge. When you put the data from the case note to the letter format, now this is the ward stay. This is the ward stay. So you can see like how I can summarize the information in the ward stay. We have to summarize in this way. This might be the rehabilitation or the nursing management, right? It also need to be summarized, but you can see in comparison to what I'm expanding information. Now, this is your discharge plan. This is your discharge plan. So basically, discharge plan should be expanded, right? So we can see there, if we can write it down in the, let's say, letter. If this is your ward stay, let's say, right? If this is your, maybe, if I will put it down, let's say if this is your rehab or nursing care, whatever the letter, according to the letter, let's say. So you can see that we are not expanding them down. And as the last part, it should be expanded. In case of discharge letter, it's your discharge plan. So as per this cone, we have to design our letter for your general understanding, but still you need to be flexible in your response, right? You need to be flexible in your response. According to the case, we have to organize the information. There is no hard and fast rule to follow this structure or that structure, right? According to the given information, we may organize the information. So sequencing of the information need to be done as per importance of the case. Remember that sequence given in the case notes might not be the right sequence. You have to sequence the information as per importance, right? So this is the concept of organization. Before we can proceed further, I'd like to ask. So next criteria, we have the conciseness and clarity. So most of us are always concerned about the number of words. Remember that although we have importance, like number of one is important, number of words is important, right? But let's say we can see there, it might not play the major part. You can say when it's come to selection, when it's come to organization, right? So it may be an important thing to consider about the number of words, right? But the most important thing is to summarize the less relevant detail. This one. Okay. So we have to see that less relevant detail is not irrelevant, as you can see over here. If it's relevant, but as per importance base, we have to summarize them down. So conciseness is your skill to summarize the less relevant. It's not irrelevant, remember that. It's not semi-relevant. It's less relevant detail. The less relevant detail should be summarized. And group the information, like club the same information to write it down together. In case of a full letter, mostly the first few visits, in case if there is a progression of disease, are less important as compared to the recent history. Mostly, I'm not saying always. So we need to summarize if we believe, okay, these are the information that has been written, like in repetition maybe, or as compared to today's visit, this should not be expanded. So we have to summarize them down. In case of discharge letter, conventionally speaking, we can write in the sequence and we have to summarize the ward stay and the rehab, right? So, and we also need to write it down 180 to 200 words, but 180 to 200 words start after mentioning the address and so on, where we start the introduction. I'm ready to refer. I'll show you in a while, right? Anyhow, so that is followed by genre and style. So in simple word, it's your clinical or factual language that you should use in writing a letter. We must have awareness about the recipient, and according to his requirement, we would use the relevant register. What I mean by that, the relevant register or the relevant vocabulary. For example, if you can see, there's a shortness of breath. In the case note, mostly they would write it down shortness of breath as it is, right? They would write it down shortness of breath as it is. Okay. So in that case, we can see there, if we are writing this letter to a doctor, so we should not use the shortness of breath. Rather, we have to use the dyspnea. Like we have to change the form. It is always appreciated if you should not use the word from the case notes, but you have to transform in your own language, considering the fact that who is the recipient. According to the recipient awareness, we have to use our own language, right? Be judicious in the use of abbreviation. Be judicious in the use of abbreviation. You should not overly use the abbreviation. You have to be flexible in your use. And in genre, also, we are not supposed to use the acronyms, such as, let's say, 52 is the number of weeks per year. So we cannot use this 2 by 52. Rather, we have to change. Similarly, at time you will see 2 by 24. It means, let's say, for 2 hours. And similarly, for 3 by 7, for 3 days, 2 by 12 for months, right? So accordingly, we have to expand them, right? So genre and style is important by maintaining the factual or technical language, right? We should keep one thing in mind, that we should not use the layman word if you are writing to a doctor. We should avoid the use of acronyms, and some words that are informal words should also be avoided, right? Anyhow, so last part is the language. In the language component, we have tenses, we have sentences, we have articles, we have parts of speech, and so on. It is important for you to understand that you must use the variety of tenses, because the grammar expression is being tested. The grammar expression is being tested. So we may use present simple, past simple, present perfect, and past perfect, and so on, right? So we should use the variety of tenses. Followed by the sentences, we have to use the simple, compound, complex, active to passive, and the variety of the grammatical structure should be used to translate the event in right tense. And then the parts of speech or the use of articles should be appropriate, right? So it's the marketing criteria of OET that we have discussed. So what we can see there, whenever we are writing the case notes, we should go to the bottommost part. We need to see who is the recipient. We are writing salary to the palliative care nurse. And for further care assistant, we are writing for, right?
Yes, sir.
Accordingly, we have to go and read the case notes. In this part, we can see that we have to write it down. The pressure point care is important. Daily sponge bath is also important. Semi-solid dietary instruction is important. Psychological support and religious aspect is also important. So in view of this reading, now we can get to know that we have to read the case note from top to bottom now. First of all, what you would do, whatever type of case notes you will read, you'll just go to the bottommost part, read the writing task carefully, then write something above the case note. If there's a discharge plan, read it carefully so that you would have an idea about that. Then start reading from top to bottom. We can see that date of birth, height, weight, and BMI. These are important points, right? And BMI should be written, let's say, as it is modern. And this date, assume today's date to be this one, as we can see. Then social history, retired teacher, live with her husband in Coburg. What do you think? Is it important or not?
No.
It is important in view of the psychological support, right? It is important in view of the psychological support. So we would write it down. The retired teacher, live with her husband in Coburg, married 3 children and grandchildren. We can write it down this one as a extended family. Non-smoker, non-drinker, substance intake nil is important negative. We may omit this information as well, as it might not be that much significant. However, allergies, it's important to write it down about the allergies, right? As we have the dietary instruction. Now, about the family history, about the mother diabetes, about the hyperglycemia, father hypertension, maternal grandmother died of heart attack, right? Grandfather diabetes, grandmother died old age, unknown. It's totally irrelevant. Yes, it's totally irrelevant, right? Past medical history, chicken pox and mumps, irrelevant. However, diabetes history is your relevant for the dietary instruction and for the wound care, right? Now, from this point of, you can see from this information, diagnosed with left breast cancer, radiotherapy, and remission of cancer. Now, these 3 lines can be written just in one line, like terminal stage of cancer. We can mention just he was diagnosed and now it's a cancer spread to the pulmonary secondaries. We can just write in one line. But as you have written the terminal stage of cancer over here, so we should not expand in view of the palliative care nurse, right? Now followed by the discharge plan that should be expanded. So now this letter can be sequenced in different approach. The first approach is that after writing the introduction, we can give a socioeconomic background of the patient, followed by the discharge plan, the way it's written. This is one of the approach, and then we can write down the conclusion. However, we may write it down this letter. If you like to ask any question.